Welcome to the Money Makers podcast, brought to you by Sophia. Sophia is an exciting education platform for women with a goal to increase diversity and inclusion in early stage investing. This podcast is a finance, innovation, and investing show for amazing women everywhere of all ages. Each fortnight, we will feature an inspiring woman from the investing and finance sector, or a female founder with a special focus on Asia. To receive a 10% discount on all of our courses, go to sophiawomen.com and use promo code podcast10. Today, we're catching back up with my colleagues at Sophia, Christine and Nicole. Welcome, ladies.
Hi,
Hello.
Tanya.
Hi, good to have you back. This is our third podcast that we've done together since launching 6-7 months ago. Today, I thought that we would just really catch everybody up on where we're at. And most recently, we launched Introduction to Investing, which is our foundational investing course. And Christine, you were integral, mover and shaker on that course. So I'm going to hand over to you to just introduce that course and tell me how that's gone and how that's been received.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tanya. I think all three of us have met women who just want a curated pathway to learn about investing. And I think, this course encapsulates all of that. It's the ultimate masterclass on everything investing, the mindset aspect of it, the why, the tour of asset classes. We also talk about the basic principles that you need to know as an investor. We also talk about things like asset allocation, trends in investing, which I really love that module in particular. And finally, we don't just leave it there, because Sophia, we're all about action. We then take you through 10 steps to get started on your investing life. So I think this is a course, we're proud of all our courses, of course, but we believe that this is the one that we hope will be an unlocker of great mindsets, great insights, and ultimately action.
And what I love about it is that it follows so nicely on from Your Money Basics and Your Money Basics Wealth Creation 101. And I think that was the motivation for building it, was we had seen that as women were understanding their financial basics, they're like, okay, so now what are the different ways I can invest? And there's lots out there, as Christine's talked about, and we've built. And it's such a great next step and evolution of our product suite.
Yeah, it really is. When I describe it to people, when I'm talking about our courses, I really talk about it as that transitional course that's taking you from, okay, you've learned all you need to learn about managing what you have. Now let's turn our attention to growing what you have. And it's the foundational first step for women taking that move from one to the other. So really important course. And then from that course, women can start deep diving into the asset classes that interest them. Because my view is that if we can introduce all these different asset classes to women, and some of them pique their interest and excite them and engage them, that's half the battle. When you're investing in something that's fun, that you enjoy.
100%. I think that's just so key. And we're, of course, very much committed to, really helping women engage with their money and their investing life at all points in their life journey. And so, Tanya, you've been hard at work on a fundamental course as well, and we're about to launch it, Money and Children. I want to hand over to you so you can talk us through that very important course and how we should be engaging with our children to talk about very important money and life lessons.
Thank you, Christine. This is a really interesting course. And to my point that I just made about finding something you enjoy, I love learning about how to engage children in this topic, because that's the future, right? If we can get education into children, we will solve so many problems, particularly for women and girls. And so our next podcast actually is going to be Money and Children, which goes hand in hand with the launch of our Money and Children course. But it really is a course designed for parents and caregivers, teachers, educators, to learn the tips and tricks, the skills they need to engage children in the conversation of money. And it's so important when we're talking about children, to make it fun. To my point around making it interesting for women to invest, it's the same for children, right? If you can make it about McDonald's or learning about Netflix and Disney, things that they understand. And we can turn these money concepts, these principles, which you might think, oh goodness, why is a 7-year-old interested in talking about financial concepts? But you can, real life teachable moments, turn into these things that children can understand, these financial concepts. And I tested this out with my own 7-year-old, and it works. It's really simple and it works. So I'm super excited about launching a course that can be game-changing for parents everywhere, because I speak to so many of my friends who have teenagers who haven't engaged their children in the topic of money, and the problems they're having are just huge. The arguments around the value of money, and the children just wanting to have X, Y, and Z, which is usually a lot of money. And its children, through no fault of their own, have fallen through the cracks with financial education. So for me, this is game changing, and I'm so excited to launch this course hopefully next week.
So what do you think, having kind of gone through and learned all that, what do you think is the best way to teach a child about money?
Well, definitely make it fun, but also be consistent with them, make it a habit with them, and make it relatable and through storytelling. So in a way, I don't think that you can get out an Excel spreadsheet and just start talking them through the formulas. It doesn't work with a 7-year-old, funnily enough. But it does work for me to take them to a store that they know and teach them about ownership of part of the store through owning stocks on the stock market. And it's relatable, and they're proud of that. They can tell everyone. I've heard my son telling his friends, oh yeah, we own a bit of that. When a friend said that they purchased an iPad, we own a bit of that. And that's game changing. Like, they're excited and they want to learn more. Yesterday I got out the weekly, on a Sunday I get out the chart and see how our stocks have done this week. And he was so excited this week that he could see that the mountain was climbing, over the last week, and it wasn't on the floor where it has been for some weeks. And bringing them into the conversation, I think we often, as parents and educators, think that they don't understand, but boy, do they understand.
So I get a lot of reactions and questions from people when I do talk about the importance of teaching children about money and money concepts from a young age. And a lot of people say, but wait a second, why do we have to, introduce them at to these concepts at such a young age and have them become money mad? Is this a good thing, right? What's the right balance, to achieving, well-rounded kids who understand the value of money, will grow up into a world and be able to navigate money and financial literacy, but not, where we're not, helping, create, in a way, money mad individuals.
I think that flows through all our courses. Is we talk about mindset. And actually what we're doing is we're teaching children from an early age, how do they control and understand money? How do they feel that sense of control? And once you feel that sense of control, you can approach money in a way that makes it, manageable, and you understand. And I think that is the fundamental. It's not around, you need more money, or money's really good, or how do I make money? It's all around, what does money mean? What does money represent? What can I do with money? You're trying to build children probably a bit more, is it penny wise, pound poor? You want to move away from that. You want them to understand that value, that I can spend here. Because I think, one of our other courses, we talk a lot around setting a budget isn't around cutting out spending. Setting a budget is determining what do you want to do and how do you achieve that. And it's bringing all those concepts in at the earliest age possible.
Yeah, absolutely, Nicole. You're spot on. So Cambridge University has told us, or tell us, that money habits are often formed by the age of 7. So if we don't introduce these concepts to children, they will form these habits probably bad habits when it comes to money, a relationship with money themselves. So we can leave them to it and not broach the subject, of course, and these bad habits will form. And then what we do is when we say, okay, well, now children are 18 or 15 or whatever we deem appropriate, okay, now we should introduce them to money. But then at that point, what we need to do is undo 15 years of bad habits and assumptions that these children have made because we've never engaged them in the conversation. That just sounds like madness, right? And also the other thing is that children have a lot of access these days to Instagram, to other social media, and what they see is rich people. They see people in flashy holidays with a Louis Vuitton bag, with this, with that car, and they see rich. They see people showing off money. Because why? Because people want to see that. People like to, oh, wow, this looks fancy, doesn't it? And at this impressionable age, they're seeing people who are actually probably not that wealthy, but they're cash rich and they're spending all their money on all these things. And do we want our children to grow up to think that that is the desirable thing? Because that is what they will believe, because that is all they see. So what we're engaged in talking to children about, and parents, is the difference between rich and wealthy, and how to, as Nicole said, your mindset and how much money, people need, and how you earn that, and how you think about saving and investing and long-term and patience. These are good skills. This is not about being greedy and grabbing money from everywhere you can. So I face those same questions too, Christine. I got a bit of stick, actually, a little bit of controversy around introducing my son to the stock market. And, is that appropriate? Oh my goodness, trading 7-year-olds. Of course, my son is not trading. He's just getting access to, looking at what's going on in the world. And I think that's imperative.
It's great to get these questions right, because that raises the discussion and actually have controversial discussions we should embrace, because it allows us to explore different schools of thoughts around how we do educate children on money and what people think is appropriate and not. And maybe we're all exposed to opening the way we think we should engage with children. So I think it's a positive thing, discussion and raising all these issues, both for money and children, but also introduction to investing. Always bring this up, I think, can only be positive.
No, I was just going to say, it's really about healthy money mindsets at the end of the day. That's what we're trying to do here at Sophia, right? And everything we put out there in our course content, our posts, our live streams. This is all what we're trying to do, right? We want to engage, we want to help you engage in a positive way in your financial lives.
The Moneymakers podcast is brought to you by Sophia, the place for women to learn, invest, and change the world. Sophia is an education platform for women, providing much-needed courses on personal finance and investing, with a goal to increase diversity and inclusion in early-stage investing. Go to sophiawomen.com and use promo code podcast10 to receive a 10% discount on all of our courses.
So, ladies, moving on to, I want to talk about some topics that we've heard women in our communities care and talk about these days. What I'd like to do is maybe we do a quick round and talk about, what are the top sort of 3 topics that you're hearing women talk about these days when it comes to their lives and their money lives. So maybe, Nicole, let's start with you.
I think a big one at the moment is all the volatility we're seeing. In the private markets, there's a lot of movement. Interesting, Tanya, you talked about, your son seeing the mountains moving up. It's, every day is different. There's a lot going on in the world, politically, economically, still we have, health issues going on in terms of the pandemic in different levels in different countries. And so I think the volatility and, one of the questions always is, well, what should I be doing with my money right now? What's safe, or how risky should I be, or where's this going? What type of markets are we going into? Because for a lot of countries, they haven't seen large recessions for a long time. And, we're starting to see numbers move that way. And so what does that mean? Should we be holding our cash longer? Should we be investing in something safe? What should I be doing with what I have already invested? Should I be assessing? So I think for me, seeing a lot more questions around, assessing what's going on externally at a macro level to impact me at a micro level.
I can't agree with you more. I'm definitely hearing a lot of that. I think I'm getting a lot of women who are, contacting me privately, asking about, gosh, what are you doing with your money? I haven't spent enough time on this, and I really need to get started. I think, in these times of, this kind of macro, we have rising rates environment, we've got, inflation and a potential recession, coming down the curve. I think I am experiencing a lot more women, dying to learn about how to manage their money, because it's getting even harder to do that, right? It's getting harder to create wealth. And so more and more, it's just so important to arm yourself with the basics, whether you do it yourself or you work with a financial advisor. So I think that's certainly a hot topic for sure that I've been seeing. I mean, Tanya, love to hear what are you hearing being talked about in your female communities?
So I'm based in Singapore, and one of the biggest concerns from women in this region is around cost of living, and in particular rent and rental pricing and schooling as well. So I think women, as the three of us know, women are the budgeters usually in the family, and so it's affecting their bottom line and occupying their minds a lot as to how they manage and navigate those things. Because, as we well know, if we don't have any money at the end of that month left from spending, all of our utilities and our essentials, then there's no money for investing. So this is a big issue that that is talked about a lot.
I think that ties in, kind of that all links together, because it's not just around investing, it's around how do I maintain what I have.
Yeah.
I don't want to be going backwards right now, or how do I not make a decision that results in me having less, in terms of how do I maintain my situation given all the increases in living costs, alongside, how we're seeing inflation. So I think that they're also intertwined at the moment, and it's creating a lot of anxiety for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think that wraps us up nicely, Nicole. And I think Christine and I have spoken about doing an inflation podcast coming up soon. So I think we should dig a bit deeper into that, and it needs a little bit more time, but it's a hot topic for us to dive into. So I want to thank you both today for taking this short 15-minute podcast, and look forward to catching up with you next time.
Chat soon. Take care.
Thanks. We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Money Makers podcast, brought to you by Sophia, the education platform for women that increases diversity in early stage investing. Visit sophiawomen.com and use promo code podcast10 to receive a 10% discount on all our courses. Learn, invest, and change the world.